Glad you could join us. Meteorologist Nicole Karkic with you. Here's our top stories. We have a blizzard heading towards Newfoundland, one of the biggest snowfalls of the season so far for St. John's. Hot and cold, extreme temperature differences across the country, and snow victims, roof and fire hydrants. We'll tell you what we're talking about coming up in a few moments. But right now, we're in storm watch. So as we look across the country, there is a little bit of rain moving into the lower mainland today, some scattered flurries across the prairies, and some big snow in northern Ontario. Thunder Bay, you've seen at least 22 centimeters of snow, a little bit more to go, and moving in through the greater Toronto region up towards Barrie. We are going to see some snow later on today, but our big story starts here in Atlantic Canada. Newfoundland, there are already some watches and special weather statements in place for you ahead of the system. Comes through tonight. Now, we're expecting to see some warnings ramping up. We're going to see strong winds, but look at the snowfall totals here. St. John's, you've had a lot of rain this season. This is a big snow event with 30 to 45 centimeters. Could see some mixing at times in the southern Avalon, but overall a big snow story. As we move into central parts of the island, those snow amounts get a little bit less. So the western shores of Newfoundland, maybe not seeing anything but the strong winds. This afternoon, below average. Usually this time of year, Halifax, you're -1, you're -9 though for this afternoon. St. John, New Brunswick, -12, and St. John's, Newfoundland, -5, and those are your wind chills. We do have extreme cold warnings in place. It got dropped in northern New Brunswick, but still in through parts of central Quebec and for the northern Avalon east. And we do have this winter storm warning in place for you through the southern Avalon. So not just the snow, but the very strong winds, gusts up to 100 kilometers an hour. Well, here's what you need to know. Too much, but right behind it, it's going to be cold temperatures. So today it's snow, but the warmest day of the week in southern Ontario. You need to be safe, and definitely there's been a lot of regions that have 4 feet of snow in front of their house. Glad you could join us. Meteorologist Nicole Karkic with you. We do see some snow right now moving through the Avalon Peninsula. Bonavista, St. John's is included as well. This is clearing out through the day, but coming up tonight, we've got a bigger, much more impactful storm with blizzard-like conditions in through places like St. John's. Up to 30 to 45 centimeters of snow through parts of the Avalon. These numbers could go down a little bit in terms of snowfall because there is a chance of seeing some ice pellets and some freezing rain, but still overall this is a lot of snow in places like St. John's that has seen a lot of rain events this year, and making its way towards the central part of the island, a little bit less snowfall because it's just staying a little bit closer to the east. As we look at Thursday, that storm departing, and then we have special weather statements in place for Friday's storm for the Maritime provinces and PEI, and then another storm system moving through for the weekend. So not much of a break when you do get them. Let's take a look at this. It's full for at least 8 of those days. So a big problem in places like Boston with all that snow. Thursday into Sunday, big story here. When you see purples, it means cold. It's the color your toes are going to turn when you step outside. Ottawa, -16 Thursday into Sunday, and Winnipeg will be -18, and Orlando just +13, so not a hot getaway, but still, I'd take it over -18. Ottawa will be -8 on Thursday with about 2 to 3 centimeters of snow making its way through, really moving through tonight into tomorrow morning. Friday, you'll be -19, and then look at Sunday, -19 with an overnight low of -25. Our 7-day forecast here in Winnipeg shows a similar trend with below average temperatures, a little bit of snow on Thursday and more snow on Sunday. Not big events, but anytime we do get snow in the prairie provinces and the winds pick up, which they will on the weekend, you're looking at the potential for the blowing and the drifting snow. On the other hand, here, Calgary, -7 yesterday. We're bumping up to +9 tomorrow. Thanks for joining us. Nicole and Chris with you. Let's talk about those big weather stories across the country.
Absolutely. Cold Arctic high pressure across many parts of the prairies. Low pressure moving into Ontario, bringing some milder temperatures in the south, some snow. We've had some big snow in Thunder Bay.
Yep.
And in the east. This is why we are in storm watch.
Already looking at big totals potentially Thursday through Friday in the Avalon Peninsula, St. John's over towards Burgeo, 30 to 45 centimeters, Chris.
Now, there's the risk there could be some ice pelts, and this is going to be really the first blizzard for St. John's in many parts of the Avalon. So we're going to be all over this. I mean, we're going to be on this storm like stink on a skunk. So we're not going to louse this one up for you, but it's going to get very windy, and the bottom line is tomorrow will likely be a stay-at-home kind of day.
Exactly. So what's happening right now is not the big storm storm that's coming later on.
I know there's a lot of high snowbanks, and get together and clear that out, because that could be the difference between a house burned and a house saved. Most of the snow in extreme southern Ontario, less than 5 centimeters, maybe a little more down towards Niagara, 5 to 10 in the northeast. The big story, though, is what comes behind this Clippers path. That's the real wrath.
Right.
Really cold air.
Oh, really cold temperatures right into the weekend. So
bet.
as we take a look at this, focusing on Atlantic Canada, that's your storm on Thursday. But guess what? We've got another one coming through Friday.
Yes.
This one on Saturday in southern Ontario, not a big deal for you, but then another big deal for the east.
Absolutely. So cold and stormy. Meanwhile, across the west, there's may flirt with double digits in the next few days.
That's right. Maybe 9 degrees tomorrow in Calgary.
Yeah.
So if you're prone to those headaches, get ready for it. We've got just some scattered flurries in the prairies this morning, and then some moisture moving through tonight for Alberta. Big stories today in Canada. A blizzard is heading to Newfoundland. We'll tell you how much snow you could pick up. Hot and cold, extreme temperature difference across the country, and snow victims, roof and fire hydrants. We'll explain that coming up throughout the show. But right now, we're in Storm Watch. So our big story is in the east. We've got this low pressure center moving into Newfoundland for tonight. So what you're seeing right now across the Avalon is not the big main event. Now, other stories we're talking about: southern Ontario, some snow making its way through the Greater Toronto region, likely hitting that afternoon commute harder than the morning. But northern Ontario, places like Thunder Bay, shoveling at least 22 centimeters of snow to start off your morning. Pretty quiet across the prairies, and for BC, there is some rain moving into the lower mainland tonight. Not too much, but it will be a little drizzly. Thursday into Friday. So we are seeing this develop tonight, moving in possibly 30 to 45 centimeters of snow through the Avalon. So St. John's, you're included in that. A lot of the events you've seen this year have been rain events. So snow covered for the city, and also blizzard-like conditions, because the winds will pick up, gusting with those northeast winds up to 100 kilometers an hour. Towards Bonavista, Clarenville, you're in a winter storm watch, because you're likely looking at the 10 centimeter range, with that low just staying closer to the Avalon. This afternoon, temperature is a big part of the story. I mean, this morning we're looking at Edmundston at minus 26 with the wind chill even colder. Halifax will get up to minus 9 by the afternoon, so that's below our average of minus 1. But it's the calm before the storm, because your bigger story then comes for the Maritimes Friday, where there are special weather statements in place across Nova Scotia and PEI. So you're missing this round, but not the next one. Extreme cold in places like Labrador City. Wabash is minus 34 right now. And then there's our warnings for the big story coming through tonight. In Quebec, this afternoon, Montreal, you're minus 12. You will see some light snow moving in tonight, but then you'll pick up about close to 2 to 5 centimeters for the evening hours. And then cold air moves in after that. We're checking in right now with Kelly Noseworthy in Oshawa. And lake effects setting up tomorrow afternoon through parts of southern Ontario. Our big story in the east right now that I want to talk about is for Newfoundland. Moving through tonight around Grand Banks, we will see this storm really picking up speed. And then through the day tomorrow, it's going to be a mess with blizzard-like conditions for St. John's and through the Avalon. 30 to 45 centimeters of snow is possible. Now, there is a risk of seeing some freezing rain and ice pellets, so that number could go down. But with the winds, yeah, it's going to be blowing all that snow around. Makes its way into the center of the island, but western shores of Newfoundland missing out on this round. This morning, we've seen lots of snow in Thunder Bay. That's tapering off, but moving down towards Barrie and through the Greater Toronto region for that afternoon commute. And looking at historic snowfalls in Boston, they've had over 60 feet of snow in the last 30 days. And speaking of Massachusetts, let's hear about this story. And just clear it away, because it's really dangerous if they're completely buried in snow. Glad you could join us. Meteorologist Nicole Karkic with you. We have some snow moving through the Avalon right now. Bonavista, seeing that snow already passing through. This is just an additional few centimeters, but there's a few late starts in eastern Newfoundland with schools. The bigger story comes through tonight, and that's why we're in storm watch. We do have a storm developing, really hitting the Avalon Peninsula very hard, just based on the track. Blizzard-like conditions is what we're saying, and that's because the winds are going to be out of the northeast, typical of the nor'easters that you're very used to in the east coast, and it will be gusting between 80 to 100 kilometers an hour. And look at these totals, possibly 30 to 45 centimeters across the Avalon. A little bit less for Bonavista, Clarenville, and Burin, because the track is really centered closer to the east. So that's Thursday's storm moving through Newfoundland. We do already for Friday have special weather statements in place for Nova Scotia and PEI, because you're going to get hit pretty hard with the next storm system system coming through. Let's now move to Ontario, where a little bit of snow today. Bigger story is coming for tomorrow with cold temperatures. But let's talk to Kelly Noseworthy right now in Oshawa. All right, thanks so much, Kelly. So for this afternoon, temperatures are really seasonal. Toronto will be -3, Barrie -3, Ottawa -10, but this appears to be our warmest day of the week in southern Ontario. Snow making its way through today. That's our big story. Thunder Bay has picked up at least 22 centimeters, a little bit more to go, but you're out of the warning. It's really centered now through the Nickel Belt, down towards Barrie, and yes, Toronto, Hamilton, over towards Ottawa. You will see that snow moving in later today. And blizzard-like conditions headed to Newfoundland for tonight. Glad you could join us, Nicole and Chris, with you. Also, some other top stories, Chris.
Yes, hot and cold, extreme temperature difference. The west is going to warm up, the east is going to cool down, and snow victims, roofs, and fire hydrants. We'll be talking about that.
So yes, we're in storm watch. We're following the system moving in later tonight towards Grand Banks and then spreading across most of Newfoundland. Maritime's missing out on this round, but for Friday, Nova Scotia and PEI, you're getting the brunt of it.
Absolutely. System moving out of Ontario is bringing some snow in the north, and we'll do the same in the south. And then look at this one here, big push of air, and that's going to help push Pacific air, rising freezing levels in BC. So that means warming temperatures and into Alberta. But let's start in the east. And Nicole, this storm track is taking a different track than most of the previous ones. You know how most of them go up through Newfoundland?
Right.
We had the slop and the rain and all just wind and the Avalon.
Right.
This is a snowstorm coming.
Yeah, and we've seen lots of pictures on Twitter of St. John's completely green in some parts.
Yes.
It's going to look very different for tomorrow
Big
with
makeover.
30 to 45 centimeters of snow on the way. Bonavista, Clarenville, and Buren, you're in the winter storm watch. Getting less snow, but still very strong winds.
There could be some ice pellets as well scraping the sections of the eastern Avalon. So today's the day to get prepared, because you know what? Today's actually pretty nice. It's chilly. It's very cold across the Maritimes. But, you know, get yourself geared up. Watch for slippery roads this morning, though. I should backtrack when I said it's a pretty nice day. This morning's a little rough because of this recent snow.
Right.
But this afternoon, get ready for what's coming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And extreme cold Labrador City as well as Northern Peninsula East.
Yes.
And we do have those winter storm warnings in place for the Avalon as well as central parts of Newfoundland. Now, this afternoon, Montreal, you'll be -12. Snow does move in later today. And speaking of snow, we do have, for the commute in southern Ontario, some messy conditions like this.
It'll be enough to grease things up, and 5 to 10 centimeters further north, so cottage country towards the Nickel Belt, Ottawa right around that 5 centimeter amount.
And then lake effect sets up on Thursday. Thanks for joining us. Meteorologist Nicole Karkic with you. Looking across the country, let's just talk temperatures quickly. Vancouver, you're going to be +10. That's actually above average, a few degrees. Calgary, -5 into the afternoon, but by tomorrow, it'll be +9. Toronto's -3. That's seasonal. Halifax, -9, but feeling closer to -17 with the wind chill. And with more on the signs behind the wind chill, here we go. Safe if they're completely buried in snow, and that's the case for many of our viewers, especially on the East Coast. Glad you could join us. Meteorologist Nicole Karkic with you here again. We've got through the Avalon some snow making its way through. Just a few more centimeters for places like St. John's and some late day starts for some schools in eastern Newfoundland. But our big event comes through tonight, developing again around Grand Banks this evening, and through the day tomorrow it's going to be a mess. So I assume there will be some more closures and some bad highway conditions tomorrow morning and afternoon. St. John's towards Argentia, 30 to 45 centimeters of snow. Could see a little bit of mixing with ice pellets and freezing rain, so the total amount of snow could go down in numbers, but nonetheless, blizzard-like conditions with gusts up to 80 to 100 kilometers an hour. Does clear out by Friday with another storm on the horizon. Bonavista, Clarenville, and Buren, you're seeing about 10 centimeters of snow. So this is our first storm moving through tonight. Newfoundland getting hit the hardest. Then Friday through to Saturday, Nova Scotia and PEI, you have special weather statements for messy weather. That moves into Newfoundland. And then Saturday, another storm system developing, really making its way through by the end of the weekend. So 3 storms moving through Atlantic Canada. This afternoon, here's your temperatures in Ontario. We're actually going to be fairly seasonal, but there is some snow moving through this afternoon. Here's Kelly Noseworthy with more on our snow story in Oshawa. And busy clearing off the snow this afternoon for the commute home in the Greater Toronto region. Light snow picking up. We'll be seeing about 5 centimeters, and then by tomorrow, big cool down. So why are we in storm watch? We've got this low pressure center that's moving into Newfoundland tonight around Grand Banks beginning this evening.
Yeah.
So tomorrow morning is going to be a mess. We anticipate probably some school closures and some really bad road conditions tomorrow morning.
Absolutely. And another one on its heels coming in on Friday for the Maritimes in Newfoundland as well as over Ontario's northern areas, bringing snow from Sudbury back towards Kenora, and that's going to bring some snow and then followed by very cold air for southern Ontario.
That's right. And a little bit of rain moving through the the lower mainland tonight. But the big story in the west is those let's try that again.
Yeah.
The warm up in temperatures in places like Alberta.
Absolutely. All right, so heavy snow with potentially some mixing with ice pellets. Now, Environment Canada is calling for 15 to 25 centimeters. We're calling for 30 plus, and it really is going to set up, where does that ice pellet range set up? Because where the ice pellets fall, that may keep the snow accumulations down, but this is going to be no picnic, no picnic whatsoever.
Right, and this symbol means blowing snow. So gusts up to 80 to 100 kilometers an hour. Those winds out of the northeast. You're used to the nor'easters. But really, the Avalon, you haven't seen something like this in a while.
Very cold across the Maritimes. Wind chills this afternoon in the -20, so you got to bundle up for that. We have extreme cold warnings across western Labrador, on the north side of the St. Lawrence, as well as the northern peninsula. Of course, there are watches and warnings for the upcoming blizzard.
That's right. And for Montreal this afternoon, -12, feeling closer to -19. Later on this evening, you'll start to see some snow picking up.
22 centimeters in Thunder Bay. That was added by that cold east wind off Lake Superior. Most areas will see much less than that. But you see the snow from Kapuskasing, Timmins, right down to Manitoulin Island, and starting to see it now creep towards the eastern shores of Lake Huron. So the drive home in Toronto will likely be a little bit sloppy with a few centimeters coming.
That's right. And then it pushes towards Ottawa. Seeing a little bit more in Ottawa in that 5 to 10 centimeter range, but under 5 here towards Toronto, down towards Hamilton, and Timmins, Kapuskasing in the 5 to 10 with that low pressure center. But temperatures this afternoon, Chris, fairly seasonal.
That's right.
But what happens behind is those cold northeast winds.
That could set up some lake effect snow off Lake Huron too. Persistent lake effect snow. So London, you have to watch out for that area. Right under those snowbanks.
That's a good question. And clear them out if you can. Just a quick shot here. 3 storms for Atlantic Canada. Newfoundland gets hit Thursday, then Nova Scotia PEI on Friday, and then another round on the weekend.
All right. Coming up, we'll be talking about the West as well. Festival de Voyageur kicks off in Winnipeg this weekend. We'll look at your temperatures.
And some lake effects setting up in southern Ontario for tomorrow. But our big storm watch coverage right now focuses on Newfoundland with a system moving into Grand Banks later on tonight. It will spread a lot of snow across all of the Avalon. We're looking at 30 to 45 centimeters potentially, as you can see in that white. Note this will potentially mix in with some freezing rain or some ice pellets. So the number could go down, but overall snow. Strong winds gusting out of the northeast up to 80 to 100 kilometers an hour. Bonavista, Clarenville, and Burin, you're seeing at least 10 centimeters of snow with this event. Now, through the day today, that snow moving out of Thunder Bay through Timmins, Kapuskasing, down towards Barrie, and for the Greater Toronto area for that afternoon commute, picking up about 5 centimeters of snow. And big snow in Boston this year could be record-breaking. And speaking of that, a roof collapsed in Massachusetts and ruined a piano. Thanks, Kelly. So this afternoon, if you're going to be in Oshawa, Toronto, Hamilton, temperatures are actually fairly seasonal at -3 here for Toronto. For Ottawa, you're -10, a little bit below your seasonal average, but still it's clear until this afternoon. And then the snow moves down towards Toronto, Barrie, over towards Ottawa. We're seeing that snow already right now through the Nickel Belt. With these big snowstorms we have coming through Atlantic Canada for tomorrow, that all the hydrants are ready to go. So right now we're seeing some snow still moving through the Avalon. St. John's, you've picked up 4 centimeters, a little bit more to go. But the bigger story comes through tonight with a nor'easter moving in, some very strong northeast winds, plus potentially 30 to 40 centimeters of snow through the Avalon. Now, this number could go down a little bit. Maybe 25 centimeters will be the total when all is said and done, because we could see some ice pellets as well as some freezing drizzle with this. But nonetheless, it will be messy tomorrow. I'm betting there will be some school closures as well. Bonavista, Clarenville, over towards Burin, getting up to 10 centimeters. But then as you push towards western shores of Newfoundland, you're not getting hit at all. So that's Thursday's storm in Newfoundland. We do already for Nova Scotia and PEI for Friday have some special weather statements for you for a round of snow and some strong winds. And then another system moving through for the end of the weekend, impacting the Maritimes and Newfoundland again. And the kids have been out of school for at least 8 days in places like Boston. So they're trying to think of a plan B for how the kids are going to get up to speed before summer comes up to a close. Thursday into Sunday, the cold air starts to move in. So snow today in places like southern Ontario, including Ottawa. But then tomorrow, you're dropping down to -16. If you're going to Orlando, it's only going to be +13. And looking towards the east here, anything in purple is an extreme cold. So parts of Quebec over towards Labrador City. And then there's our special weather statements and winter storm warning for St. John's and the Avalon. Cold extends in through the northern prairies for you this morning, but a push of warmer air will make places like Alberta and southern Saskatchewan warmer over the next couple of days. And for Terrace up towards Stewart, there is a snowfall warning in place. Haida Gwaii wind gusts up to 60 to 80 kilometers an hour. And while we don't officially have blizzard warnings in place for you in the east, Newfoundland, blizzard-like conditions coming through tonight.
Absolutely. Right through much of your Thursday, by the way. Hot and cold, extreme temperature difference. We'll be talking about that.
And snow victims, roofs, and fire hydrants. We'll explain that throughout the program. Big stories across the country, Chris. We've got some rain moving into places like Vancouver with not very much into the afternoon.
More heavy snow for the North Coast inland sections. By the way, that's not a legitimate cloud. That's all clear skies in the north, but it's so cold it's tricking the satellite, and that cold air is moving into the eastern prairies today. Snow in northern Ontario, moving into southern Ontario, and why we're in storm watch, Nicole. Now, that's not the problem in St. John's these days, but it could be after a series of storms all coming. So you had about 5-ish centimeters from this recent one that's moving out this morning. This next one's coming in, so I would say parents have a plan B on standby because it might be a snow day tomorrow.
Yeah, I think a lot of school closures, maybe some businesses closed as well. 30 to 40 centimeters through the Avalon Peninsula. Let's add those winds as well out of the northeast, gusting between 80 to 100 kilometers an hour. You know the drill. It's going to be blowing all around. Bonavista, Vista, Clarenville to Buren. The snow amounts a little bit less. And then the western shores of Newfoundland missing out on this storm.
Cold day today across the Maritimes and Quebec, -12 in Montreal, -15 in Moncton. And things you need to know. And it's headed southwards.
Yeah, that's right. And then you'll be bundling up tomorrow. So the snow this afternoon for that commute. Greater Toronto region will bring you under 5 centimeters. Ottawa later this evening. But the Nickel Belt, seeing up to 5 to 10 centimeters. Temperatures, though, this afternoon, Chris, fairly seasonal.
Yes, the cold comes tomorrow. In northern Ontario, you too will feel the Arctic chill.
Thanks, Kelly. So as we look at this afternoon, yes, snow is coming. So the Salters will be out. We've got Toronto at -3. Ottawa will be -10. Sault Ste. Marie -4 for you. In northern Ontario this afternoon, fairly average for Thunder Bay at -11. Wawa will be -8. Let's look at the Prairie Provinces for the afternoon because it's bitterly cold here through parts of Saskatchewan and Manitoba. Saskatoon's -23. Red Deer, you're -10. But our storm watch coverage starts now. So for you in Newfoundland, there are winter storm warnings in place through the Avalon Peninsula. We've got 30 to 40 centimeters moving through and blizzard-like conditions. So we will have gusts up to 80 to 100 kilometers an hour out of the northeast, Bonavista down towards Buren. We are looking at maybe possibly 15 centimeters for you. So a little bit less as we move towards the western part of the island. So it's hitting the Avalon the hardest. That comes through tonight. Tomorrow morning, I expect there to be possibly some closures in terms of buildings, maybe some school delays or closures as well. And we do have that system departing on Friday with another one right behind it. This one for Nova Scotia and PEI, there are already special weather statements, and then it moves into Newfoundland. That one could be a messy mix. And then Sunday night into Monday, much more of the east, now including New Brunswick, will get hit by another storm. So you just, based on the way the jet stream is, you can't get away from these storm tracks in Atlantic Canada. Now, the story in the east for tomorrow is going to be the cool down in temperatures, especially Ottawa here at -16, down towards Orlando. You can see sinking all the way down. We're looking at +13 when usually they're probably around the 20-degree mark there. Temperatures for today, +10 in Vancouver. Usually your average is 8, so seasonably warm. And as far as the rain goes, Vancouver under 10 millimeters into Thursday. So it's not a big event, a little bit bigger towards Terrace and Stewart with 10 to 15 centimeters through to Thursday. And then it spills over towards Alberta, coming through Thursday night into your Friday. And that could actually bring places like Grand Prairie, Whitecourt, and Edson, maybe some freezing rain tomorrow afternoon. So to be on the lookout for that. But a big warm up in temperatures for tomorrow. Calgary, you'll be +9.